I have the great luck of being able to work on the Building for the Arts program in my role. I help coordinate the coalition, and so have been involved since 2018 in Building for the Arts, and am excited that you're here to learn more about it today and to be joined by David Foster, who's a longtime lobbyist of the program and is incredibly knowledgeable about all things Building for the Arts. So wanted to turn it over to him for a quick introduction.
Good afternoon, everybody. David Foster, contract lobbyist, and as Katie said, I've represented the coalitions that have made up the Building for the Arts groups for the past 7 budget cycles, or the past 14 years. And it's always an ever-changing group. And so the coordination that ArtsFund does for this statewide effort is very important as we bring new people in, as some organizations go through the process for a second or sometimes even a third time. It's helpful to have that ongoing presence. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the program, answer questions, and hopefully inspire folks to sign up and apply for the Building for the Arts program in 2022.
Yeah, so I just quickly kind of wanted to give an overview of the program for folks, a little bit of history. So ArtsFund and the Boeing Company in 1991 piloted this program, which is essentially to give grants for major capital improvements for arts and cultural nonprofits across the state of Washington. And it was so successful that it was kind of enveloped into the Department of Commerce, who administers this program. So the Department of Commerce is the institution that does kind of the technical trainings, does the hosts the application, works with the community panel to do the review, and is really kind of supporting you throughout the process. But ArtsFund kind of initiated this, so we're still involved. We like to get the coalition together and to help kind of coordinate with any and all advocacy during the session. We have Building for the Arts has successfully made grants to 262 organizations across Washington state. And the organizations represent 30 of the 39 counties in Washington. These projects can range anywhere from land acquisition to major renovations to building new spaces. So they are really kind of go all across the spectrum. The total amount of public support that has gone to the program has been $129 million. So that's the amount that Building for the Arts has kind of supported in capital projects. We've been functioning for a long time under kind of the same legislation, in that the cap was $12 million, and there's some exciting new changes this short legislative cycle that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But just kind of wanted to give a little bit of some background information on the program, who the main players are, and turn it back over to David to kind of talk some more about how the program works.
Katie, yeah, so the program itself is fairly straightforward. There's an application process, and that comes in the spring of the even-numbered years. So it's coming up, being the spring, I think mid-May of this current year. The application opens and will remain open for approximately 6 to 8 weeks. I'm never entirely sure how long it's going to be open. And then there's a review process that the Department of Commerce and a peer group go through. There's a second opportunity later probably in August, to provide updated information. And then recommendations come out from the Department of Commerce in the fall. Those recommendations are ranked. The projects are ranked in order from 1 to whatever the bottom one is, and until $12 million, in this case, $12 million is spent. Those recommendations go to the governor's office and OFM, that's the Office of Financial Management. They're the ones that write the budget, and they determine whether or not to include the grant recommendations in the draft budgets that go out in early to mid-December. And then the legislature, of course, takes up their role in January of 2023, and they review the grant proposals, the dollar amounts, and ultimately decide whether or not to include Building for the Arts and a number of other grant programs, whether or not to include those in the budget. The budget is generally passed by the end of April. The governor signs it sometime by the middle of May. And then theoretically, at least, the dollars become available July 1, 2023. In reality, there's some contracting process that takes place. Also, these dollars are last dollars in. And so often you will see a pretty hefty gap in time between when the application process starts and the dollars start to roll in. What I can say is that, so usually that's at least 18 months. What is important to note is that once the legislature acts, you can be confident that those dollars are in place and can move forward knowing full well that the last 20% of your project, or up to $2 million, whichever is smaller, will be available. Katy referenced a couple of changes that we're working on. There were, well, the program itself, I'm sorry, let me back up. The program itself requires a 20% match from the state. So an organization that is applying has to raise 80% of the dollars, and then the 20% is reimbursable. So you actually have to pay for the project and then are reimbursed by the state. The 20% match is the lowest match of any of the state grant programs. So 2 years ago in the 2020 budget, we were
I'm in it right now.
We were able to get a change inserted in the budget for the 2020/21 Building for the Arts cycle, and it increased the match to a 33% or 2-to-1 match from the state. This allowed more organizations to apply, more organizations to receive funding. We also increased the overall programmatic cap from 12 to 16 million. So that was only for the length of the budget. So what we're trying to do in this current legislative session is try to make permanent those changes. So again, changing the match to a 33% or 2-to-1 match, and increasing the overall amount from 12 million, in this case, to 18 million. So the legislature would still have to act on it. It's not a requirement that they spend this money, but that would be the top of the Building for the Arts program. Marnie, who's on here, has now testified twice in support of this legislation, and we thank her for it. Very enthusiastic about it, so we appreciate that. We're hoping to see this legislation move forward. The bill numbers for this legislation are 1647 and 5530. House Bill 1647 and Senate Bill 5530. So we're trying to move that one forward as well. So I think I'll just stop there. I'm not sure, I probably missed something, but I'll stop there and see if there are any questions regarding the program or the changes that we're going after, or any of the information that Katy provided. No questions, okay. I think one important point I
have a question, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna type it, but now it's gonna take too long. I'm curious if that higher share percentage is gonna be just available to low income or rural communities, or if that's gonna just blanket any project, even in that, those more affluent areas that are already greatly benefiting from this.
Yeah, it's across the board. It's not a there's no limits as to the size of the organization that can apply. I think where it's important is that the total project cap is still in place. So no project can be over $2 million, or again, whatever the match is. So currently 20, maybe 33%. no project can be over that amount, whatever is smaller. And there are a number of projects that ask for a full 2 million. They're not all in the Seattle King County area, so they are spread out. And what sometimes does happen too is that the Commerce, in their review of the applications, they will cut down the dollar amount requested. So for instance, an organization requests a $2 million grant, but there are $22 million worth of requests that are eligible. They may cut the $2 million grants down by $200,000 or $300,000 to allow for more projects to be funded ultimately in the budget. The other thing I was going to say, and then I'll get to you real quick, Marnie. The other point I wanted to make is there's I think even a stronger effort right now to get the word out about Building for the Arts. Department of Commerce has been running this program, and they do a great job of getting the grants taken care of. But they're now coordinating with the Arts Commission to increase that awareness. I think ArtsFund is involved in this as well. And so we're really hoping to see an increase in the number of projects that apply in this upcoming cycle, and also where they're located. You know, it should be nice to see some projects that are on the eastern side of the mountains, that are maybe down south of Olympia, and other areas that haven't been as strong in their application process of late. It doesn't mean their applications weren't taken. We just haven't seen the applications come in. So hopefully we'll see some more in this cycle, and then again in 2024. Marnie?
Okay, 2 questions. I have a project on the east side. Yep. $36 million project. The capital campaign goes through 25. So like you said, they want to be the last money in, but we aren't going to have the whole 36 million or 34 million in this case raised by the end of 2023, the year in which they're awarding it. So I'm wondering about that. And then I'm also wondering if we were blessed enough to be awarded anything, is it a one-time gift to the project, or can we continue to apply in the next budget cycle, and the next budget cycle, and the next budget cycle?
Great questions. And I think I'm answering both at the same time when I say that you can apply numerous times. You have to make sure that you don't want to apply for using the full 36 million or the full amount of your project. You want to apply, since you would be capped at 2 million, you don't want to apply for anything over 10 million. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 1A, B, that sort of thing. That allows you to break it up.
And they have to be, the phases have to be distinct enough that they look like that they are, you know, kind of
separate,
different. Yes, exactly.
That would be easy in this case, because there's 3 big areas of the building actually. So that would be easy, and you can apply multiple times, huh? You
can. Yeah. There's no limit to the amount of Building for the Arts fund any one organization receives.
Okay. I do
so
think
then what you're saying is, like, if they want to be the last money in, it would have to be the last money in the phase in which that I put forward in the application. And we would need, like, if it was 10 million, we would need 8 million, and then they would maybe as much as 2, because we're capped out at 2 since our project is so huge.
Yes, that's correct. And they also want to, as much as possible, have the dollars spent within the biennium in which they are appropriated. So using this year and next year as the example, dollars are approved in April, May of 2023. You want to have them ideally spent by June 30, 2025. And then by that time, you're in the next round of grants.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to clarify too, it is, we probably mentioned this, but it is a reimbursement grant. So it is, you do have to account for the money spent, and then they reimburse you for that. So we do know that that's kind of a tricky part of the process. And I think David can speak more to this, but in contracting with the Department of Commerce, there's a lot of paperwork, as one can imagine, in receiving public funds. So sometimes the funds do come a little bit later. So that's how this program in particular is structured.
I know there's a link in the chat regarding some information, or having asked for some information. I'm going to add another link that goes to the Department of Commerce's website. There's also one on the Arts Commission's website that provides information about this program. So I just sent that to everybody. The other thing that's important is there's no minimum amount that can be requested. So small projects, dollar-wise, small projects are certainly accepted. I think we had one this year that was about $37,000, and so don't hesitate to try to move forward on projects if you even if you're not sure if they fit or not. And what has been helpful with Department of Commerce and now the Arts Commission is they are available to talk about projects before the application opens. They will give technical assistance. This works, this doesn't. Here's what you can do. Here's how you could combine things. They're very open to providing that help and support. So that, again, they want to give away money. So they want to have as many projects as possible. So they want to help folks be prepared when the application process opens.
Hi, I have a quick question, Elise Enrico, Artsport. I'm curious. Now, I know traditionally this is about building spaces, but I'm wondering with COVID, if there is flexibility in how that's being interpreted. One of our needs because of COVID is to do some kind of mobile outdoor space for teaching. And I'm wondering, how can we interpret this opportunity to support the needs and safety of our community?
That's an interesting question. Right now, I think it very clearly is for facilities and not mobile facilities, or not those that can move. Yeah, I don't think there's any flexibility on that front, but we could take a look at the legislation and see if there might be an opportunity to play with it a little bit.
Thank you.
One of the problems, sorry, I cut you off there. One of the problems that often comes up with these not problems, one of the requirements that comes up is that you have to have site control for a long period of time. And so that's a impediment to what you just described.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to go into the legislature with the changing needs because of COVID. We do have an office that we rent. However, we have a need for outdoors, all weather, outdoors equipment. And so in a way it's a classroom. And so I don't know where that fits into the world these days, but yeah, something to put in your seed in your mind.
That's a good idea. It's good thinking. Marnie just asked a question about the bills, the pieces of legislation, and when will we know they're passed? Well, the session ends March 10th. Hopefully we know before that. The Capital Budget Committee is planning to pass 1647 out of the committee tomorrow afternoon at 1:30. Not sure yet about Ways and Means and 5530. But we do have at least one vehicle moving now, and there are cutoffs during the legislature, and so we're well ahead of the fiscal cutoff, which is 2 weeks from today. So feel good about where things stand right now. I never want to predict what the legislature is going to do, because I certainly don't want to be wrong. But I feel like we've got a real good start this year on this piece of legislation.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think Madeline dropped it in the chat box, but there is kind of a one pager that we shared out. If you're meeting with any legislators or sending any emails, that just kind of includes some language about supporting those two proposed bills, and how you can kind of connect with your legislators to, say, yes, I support this. So I think that is available in the chat.
And I'll just add that the more legislators hear from their constituencies, the more they are, we help them to understand how important these types of programs and in turn, art and cultural and heritage and scientific centers are in your local communities. The more support we're going to get in the legislature in passing these types of pieces of legislation forward and supporting communities across the state that maybe have not otherwise received this type of financial capital budget support. So keep your eyes and ears open for probably mid-March. Again, when we will have when the application process will open. If you go on to the Department of Commerce's website using the link that I sent, you can see that there's staff names on the right-hand side of that link. Those are the technical staff that I mentioned can be extremely helpful. And then again, ArtsWA, the Arts Commission also has staff. In fact, I'll add that link as well. That can be helpful.
All right, while David is adding that link in the chat, I'm just going to take care of a few housekeeping things. Hi, I'm Madeline. I am the outreach coordinator of Inspire Washington. Thank you guys so much for coming to this webinar. We're really happy to have such a good turnout. I've been recording the webinar and it's going to go on YouTube shortly, so you can send it with people in the staff or board of your organization, within your networks, etc., so that they can also stay informed about the issues. We have a huge advocacy week coming up next week, Arts, Heritage, and Science Week. That is where people will be meeting with their legislators. I recognize a lot of names on this call of people who are going to be on our district teams, which is super exciting. So you guys can expect an email from me later today, really detailing that whole process, announcing your team leaders and all of that stuff. If you are not a part of that, but would like to join our meetings next week to talk to your legislators, please sign up in the form that I'm going to drop in the chat now. Or you can email me at advocacy@inspirewashington.org to let me know of your interest. We're specifically looking for people outside of Seattle right now. Our Seattle teams are super robust, have a ton of people in them, but anywhere outside of Seattle, including in areas of King County that are not Seattle, we would love to gain some more advocates. So if you're interested, please sign up, send the form link to anyone you know who might also be interested in advocacy, who is from those regions. The link tree that I've dropped in the chat has links to all of our future webinars for the rest of the week. It has a briefing sheets Google Drive, so keep an eye on that because we'll continue to add some more briefing sheets. So far, we have one for this piece of legislation, as well as the Washington Film Incentive and briefing sheets from ArtsWA and all of their priorities. Their webinar is tomorrow, and you can keep an eye out for some more coming directly from us from Inspire Washington. And then the bill tracker is a great way to keep track of all of the legislation, if it's in committee, if it's getting voted on, at what point those things are happening. I think that is it. Thank you all so much for joining. We'll make sure we start emailing all of this info out via constant contact as well. And you can keep track of us on social media. So I will drop our social media handles in the chat as well. On Instagram, we are at Inspire Washington. On Twitter, we are at Inspire Washing. Different. And then on Facebook, you can just search for Inspire Washington. So that'll also be a great way to keep track of what's going on when the webinars are and our YouTube links as we release them. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a nice rest of your day.
Thank you.
Folks, don't forget to apply.